Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. So continuing with our mapping series, in this video we are going to discuss in detail about North America and the entire geography of North America, including the physical divisions, rivers, lakes and all major landforms that we see in this particular continent. Now first of all, to give you a brief idea about the entire continent itself, North America across the world is considered as the third largest continent. If you look at the stretch of North America, it is stretched all the way from here. You can see the group of islands, which is a volcanic island. These are referred as Aleutian Island. And then further, if you come to the south, it is extend all the way up to the Isthmus of Panama, which basically connects or joins North America with the South America as such. Now, when we talk about North America, generally in our mind, the picture comes of major countries such as US, Canada and Mexico, but that is not true. When you talk about the continent of North America, apart from including these large countries, it also includes the vast island of Greenland that you can see from here. And that's where it is a very interesting fact you should keep in mind that though politically Denmark is controlling Greenland, but Denmark is part of Europe and at the same time Greenland is part of North American continent. So this is an example of how many times the physical geography does not completely coincides with the political geography as such. Similarly, if you look at the Panama, here you have the narrowest stretch of the continent, which is roughly 50 kilometers or we can say somewhere about 31 miles as such. So this is overall we can say the brief description of North America. Now from geography perspective, UPSC perspective, we have to focus more on physical region or physiographical region. Now in that context, the entire North America can be divided into 5 major physiographical regions that we'll see on the map also. Now if you look at the western side, the entire western coast of North America is basically made up of mountain. This mountain is a result of ocean continent convergence, a process you would have studied in plate tectonics theory. A volcanic mountain chain, Cordilleras, are something that we also call as because of the cord-like shape of mountain is straddling across the western coast of North America. As we descend on the eastern side, finally we enter into the most fertile tract of North America, and that is referred as the Great Plain. Now, apart from that, also, if you look at in the upper part, northern part, you have the Canadian Shield. Canadian Shield is basically one of the oldest plateau of the continent, and in the Akasta region of the same Canadian Shield, you'll find the rocks that is believed to be the oldest rock existing in today's world, which is roughly 4.2 billion years old. Now, eastern region, you have a lot of variations such as mountains, you'll find plain areas, you'll find lakes and all that. And finally, you have the island groups that is referred as the Caribbean. Now, if you look at this on the map itself, so this is the part that we have discussed. If you look at the entire western part of North America, this is the Cordillera. This is the mountain ranges extending all the way from Alaska to the South American region, the Central American region of Mexico up to Yucatan Peninsula, we can see from here. This part, the central part we have discussed is the fertile tract where you have a lot of lakes and rivers, and here majority of crop that is produced in North America is grown there. Eastern region you can see we have variation because you have Appalachian Mountains, you have also the southern coast around Gulf of Alaska, and further you have what you can call as the Laurentian Plateau in the north. And this part that we have discussed is what we refer as the Canadian Shield, the peninsular, the plateau kind of landmass. Now, if you look at the mountains first, important mountain ranges we can discuss here. So as far as the Rockies mountain is concerned, it is believed to be one of the longest mountain range of the entire continent. For example, all the way it stretches from north to south for a distance of roughly 4,800 kilometers. If you want to know the boundaries, so the northern boundary is marked by a river in western Canada. As you can see from here, this is the Canadian region. This river is called as Liard River. And further, it extends all the way in the south to New Mexico, where you have another river called as Pecos River. So from Liard River to Pecos River is the extension of Rocky Mountain. The origin of this mountain is believed to be of Laramide orogeny. Orogeny basically is a term that is referred to the development or genesis of mountain as such. Oro refers to mountain, Geni refers to genesis. So somewhere between 80 to 55 million years ago, the mountain, that is the Rocky Mountain, came into existence. Then if you look at the Rockies Mountain, first of all, as we have discussed, that along the entire western coast of North America, if you look here, basically if you go on this side, you have the oceanic plate. This oceanic plate is called as Pacific plate. Right, so here you have the Pacific plate. Now what is going on is that this is your North American plate, which is a continental plate. So whenever oceanic plate and continental plate converge, we know that the oceanic plate, because of their high density, subducts below the continental plate. As a subduct below, you have the rise of magma. This magma then breaks through the continental plate crust and then deposits itself after cooling and solidifying, creating a mountain or volcanic mountain like a structure. And this is the exact mechanism through which the Rockies mountain have come into existence. So we can say, as a result of OC convergence, ocean continent convergence, mountain has formed. In the Rockies, if the question is asked that which is the highest peak, the answer would be Mount Elbert. Mount Elbert, which is situated at an altitude of about 4,400 meters, is believed to be the highest peak of Rocky Mountain. And most interestingly, from prelims perspective, we have to know that Rockies are the mountain, or Rocky is the mountain along which you will see the flow of one of the most important local winds on the earth. This is called as Chinook wind, also locally referred as snow eater wind. So basically the wind comes from the Pacific, then it ascends along the Rockies, further it descends along the Rockies, and as we have discussed that on the eastern side of Rockies you have the Great Plains of America. So the wind basically blows in the Great Plains of North America, and this wind is very crucial for the agriculture purposes, for the animal breeding purposes, and thus it is called as Chinook wind. Now further, if you look along the western coast of America itself, North America itself, you can see this extension along the Nevada state of US. You will find a mountain that is called as Sierra Nevada mountain. If you talk about Sierra Nevada mountain, overall it is extended between Central Valley of California, and then you have the Great Basin region that we have discussed. So this side we have the Central Valley, and this side we have the Great Basin as such. Between them you have the extension of Sierra Nevada mountain. This mountain also has formed in the similar way how Rockies have come into existence as such. Overall, if you look, the entire dimension of this particular Sierra Nevada mountain is about 640 into 80 kilometers. 80 kilometers is the width and 640 kilometers is the length of the mountain. And if question is asked that which is the highest peak in the Sierra Nevada range, the answer would be 4,421 meter. At this altitude, you will find Mount Whitney. That is the highest peak here. Plus, this entire region is also known for one of the major lakes you will find here, that is called as Lake Tahoe. One of the very important alpine lakes that you will find in North America, and on the basis of the area, it is believed that it is the largest alpine lake. When we talk about alpine lake, we generally refer to lakes which are situated at an altitude of 3,000 meters and above as such. Plus, in this region, you will find a lot of indigenous tribes that used to reside, that still resides actually in North America. These are referred as Red Indian tribes as such. Then further, another important mountain you'll find along the eastern coast of North America. Now you can see you have the Atlantic Ocean, and stretching all the way from Canada to US, you have the Appalachian Mountain as such. And on the other side of Appalachian Mountain, you can see you have the Great Lakes region, another very important region in North America. So it is believed that when you talk about the Appalachian Mountain, it is a very, very old mountain as such. Right, very, very old mountain formed during the Ordovician period. And if you look at the age of this mountain, it is believed that it is about 480 million years old. So very old mountain, and because of this region, we can see the mountain is not very high as such, and overall it is extended all the way. If you look at this part of Canada, this is the Newfoundland region, and then further in US, you have Alabama. So central part of Alabama, overall we can say 2,400 kilometers. That is the extent of the Appalachian Mountain. In this particular mountain, if the question is asked that what is the highest peak of Appalachian Mountain, the answer would be Mount Mitchell. Mount Mitchell is situated at an altitude of 2,037 meters and is located in the state of North Carolina. So these are some basic facts you have to keep in mind as far as Appalachian Mountain is concerned. Now, Appalachian Mountain also is significant from the perspective of mineral resource, because it is in the Appalachian, US and Canada have their vast reserves of coal, which is a very, very important mineral, and we can say it is the backbone of industrial development, because the coal that is found here is used along with the iron ore that is also found in the western part, and they basically has led to development of large number of steel industries in this area. And interestingly, it's not that any coal is found here. We know that coal have different grades like anthracite, bituminous, lignite, peat. So here you will find the best quality of coal on the basis of calorific value, and that is anthracite coal. Here also you will find the little atlas. It is having similar kind of topography as a little atlas in the Morocco as such. Basically, it is believed that both these mountains at some point in time were joined together, and due to the breakup of Pangaea, they splitted apart as such. So extension of Appalachian you can see in the little atlas of Morocco. Overall, due to the extension of Appalachian in the north-south direction, it acts as a barrier to the east to west travel. And also overall, if you look at this landscape here as clearly seen in the image, you can see you have ridge and valley kind of topography. Several ridges. Ridges means the uplifted part, the upper part of mountain you can see, and valley is the depressed part that you can see from here. So you start from north, you can see ridge, valley, this kind of topography. Something similar you would see in the Himalayas also, especially in the Shivalik Himalayas that we find here. Now coming to one of the most important mountain ranges in North America, that is in the state of Alaska. You can see from here extended toward Bering Strait and Bering Sea, and this range is what we call as Alaska Range. Now if we talk about the Alaska Range is not very long. Overall, it is kind of, you can say, arcuate shape range, arc-like shape, and the length is roughly 650 kilometers as such. Now, most interesting and important point that you have to keep in mind is that in the entire North America, the highest and tallest peak is found in the Alaska Range. This tallest peak is referred by the name of Mount McKinley, also called as Mount Denali. Now, the height of this particular peak is about 6,190 meters. Roughly, we can say 6,200 meters, easier to remember. Now, two names are there, and this is very interesting to understand because when Trump came earlier, due to the colonial practices, the Denali was original name. It was transformed or changed to Mount McKinley. Again, to respect the local traditions, customs, and local people, the name was again converted into Mount Denali. But when Donald Trump took charge of US as a president in this year of January, that time again he converted the name back to Mount McKinley. So both names you should keep in mind, both refer to the same mountain. Again, this also is part of the Ring of Fire. You would have read about around the entire Pacific Ocean. You have the volcanic eruption that occurs, you have the subduction between the different plates, interaction with different plates that is going on. So this is a volcano-rich zone, and a part of this you'll see in Alaska itself. And also if you look here to the upper part, in the upper part of Alaska, you have another small range called as Brooks Range, and Brooks Range has highest peak in Mount Chamberlain, which is about 2,749 meters as such. So Alaska Range and Brooks Range. Now in North America, we also see development of multiple deserts, largely because of the rain shadow effect. And if you look at the main deserts, the first desert is what you can call as Sonoran. Also, if you try to understand about the term rain shadow itself, in the climatology you would have studied about that if you have a mountain like this and a warm and moist wind are coming across and flowing across this mountain, they are forced to rise up as they strike this particular slope of mountain. So when the warm and moist wind rises, they causes condensation. Condensation results in heavy rainfall. So this slope of the mountain, for example, western slope we can say in this case, receives very heavy amount of rainfall. On the other hand, when these winds crosses the mountain, at that time they become dry in nature, plus because they are descending downward, they are getting warm also. So warm and dry wind cannot yield rainfall, cannot cause precipitation, and that is why this part of the mountain, the eastern slope in this case we can say, remains relatively dry as such. So one slope of mountain receive heavy rainfall, the other slope of mountain receive little to no rainfall. This entire effect itself is called as rain shadow effect. Orographic effect is a term that also we use. So due to the region that is located along this slope, because they are receiving very less amount of rainfall, they are said to be lying in the rain shadow zone. That means arid and dry condition persists there, and that is exactly what we see. It is due to the rain shadow effect in the coast ranges. You can see from here, you have along this area the mountain that is called as coast range. For example, here if you look here, And because of the rain shadow effect of coast rain, you have development of Sonoran Desert that is extended all the way around the California and Gulf of California, we can see from here. Similarly, because of the rain shadow effect of Sierra Nevada is a mountain we have discussed along the state of Nevada. So, due to the rain shadow effect of the Sierra Nevada mountain, you have the formation of a desert that is called as Mojave Desert. And then further, in the Mexico, if you go, right, in the Mexico, if you go here, this side, you have another mountain range called as Sierra Madre Mountain. And Sierra Madre Mountain also produces rain shadow effect, and thus it lead to formation of a desert in Mexico that is called as Chihuahuan Desert. So, three major deserts, all are result of the rain shadow effect: the Sonoran, Mojave, and Chihuahuan. So, that is how we can understand the formation of desert in the North America. Further, you can see to the north of Mojave Desert, you have another large desert called as Great Basin Desert. That also is because of the rain shadow effect of the Rocky Mountains that we have here further to the north. That means, in essence, what we can say is that the rain shadow effect of the western cordilleras in North America produces several deserts, and the name of these deserts from north to south is given here. If you look at from the perspective of area, Chihuahuan Desert is the largest out of all the deserts that we have discussed here. Now, one of the most interesting landform is somewhere in the central to east part of North America, straddling across the border of US and Canada, is the region that we called as Great Lakes region. Now, Great Lakes region, if you look, is basically began to form at the end of the last glacial period. So, what it is believed is that during the glacial period, you have the ice sheets, thick, large ice sheets moving from north to south, obviously from polar areas toward the temperate areas. And then as they moved to the south, what happened is that they scoured the region, they scoured the surface, creating large depressions and such. And when the ice age began to end, the glaciers began to melt, the ice sheets began to melt, and the depression that was carved out due to the erosional activity got filled up by the meltwater, creating such large number of glaciers. So you have on the map, if you see, total the Great Lakes itself is a region that is made up of 5 lakes. These are Lake Superior, then we have Lake Michigan, then we have Lake Huron, you have Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. That means these 5 lakes are what we call as Great Lakes. If you want to remember it, the easiest way to remember this is by abbreviation or mnemonics of Holmes. Holmes is a term that you can simply keep in mind, and each of this term represent the corresponding lakes we have discussed: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie and Superior. Now, most important point, and this you might have heard somewhere, that along the border of US and Canada, you will find the very famous waterfall, also attracts a lot of tourists every year, that is called as Niagara Falls. So Niagara Falls is basically located between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie near the city of Buffalo. That is also a very important place. And around this lake areas, Great Lakes area, first of all, it is significant because it is believed to be one of the largest reservoir of fresh water on the earth, and also because in this area you'll find iron ore, you'll find the limestone, you'll find this what you can call as the dolomites and all. And in the east further we have Appalachian where we have the coal. So this area is what you can call as the industrial heartland of US, because base industries such as steel has developed, that has led to development of multiple other industries such as automobiles, paper, or this what you can call as shipbuilding and all. Now we have discussed that in the glacial time you have the movement of movement of ice sheets and glacier to the south, while retreating then they filled the depression with the water. So Great Lakes obviously is very significant because in the terms of area it is the largest lake body. They are also interconnected, joined together. Also they are very important from transportation perspective. But also if you see on this particular map, you go to the north, you have several such small to medium sized lakes that has formed. All of these lakes that are shown here are nothing but example of the glacial lakes themselves formed by the similar process. So you start from north, you have the Great Bear Lake. Then again you have Great Slave Lake. Further, you have Lake Athabasca. Then near the Hudson Bay, you have the Reindeer Lake. Then further this side, you have Lake Winnipeg. And nearby Lake Winnipeg itself, lying almost parallel, we can say, is a lake that is called as Lake Manitoba. And then these, we have discussed, these 5 is what we call as the part of Great Lakes as such. Then further south, you have Lake St. Clair, a small lake. And then in the Utah, you have the Great Salt Lake as such. So all of these are freshwater lakes. and very, very important from the perspective of drinking water consumption. And that is why in US and Canada, till now, drinking water is not scarce, and one reason you can understand is because of this particular geography as such. Now, if you look at the rivers itself, North America has multiple rivers. So some of the important rivers, if you look, that we can see is the river Colorado, that you can see from here. River Colorado, that's this river, you can see it is flowing like this toward Gulf of California. This is your Gulf of California. This is the Baja region. So let us try to understand briefly about Colorado River. Colorado River is a very important river because it originates from the Rocky Mountain, the largest or the longest mountain range of North America, and then flowing further to the southwestern direction, it drains out itself in the Gulf of California. So the origin point, if you look at more precisely, is believed to be the La Poudre Pass Lake in the Rocky Mountains National Park. State-wise, obviously, it is part of Colorado state. Colorado is a plateau as well. Elevation is about 3000 meters, and mouth we have discussed. Length of the particular river is about 2334 kilometer. Area of river basin is very large, 637,000 square kilometer. You can compare with the Ganga also, because the length of Ganga river is 2525 kilometer. Somewhere in the same range you have the Colorado River itself. Now, the most important point about Colorado River is that when it flows across the Colorado Plateau, it forms a very, very well known and we can call as the largest or the grandest canyon in the world. Canyon, you can see, is a kind of steep sided valley, like a structure that forms here. This is also something you can see clearly from here. The meandering path of river creates a very picturesque kind of the canyon topography. The canyon itself is called as Grand Canyon. It is found in the state of part of northern Arizona, and because river is flowing from plateau to plain, it descends at multiple places, and using this descent of river, hydroelectricity generation is something that we can see in North America, and multiple dams and reservoirs also have been developed across this particular river as such. So if question is asked which river forms Grand Canyon, the answer should be without doubt Colorado River. This is what we have to remember. Second important river is Columbia River. Columbia River originates from the Rocky itself, but the part of Rocky that lies not in US but in Canada, in the southeast British Columbian province, that is called as Columbia. You can see the river is flowing like this and then drains out in what you can call as the Pacific Ocean as such. Now, flowing south to the state of Washington ends in the Pacific Ocean. Length is slightly lesser as compared to the Colorado River. It is 1,857 kilometers as such. The hydroelectric power development, again, same logic, because the rivers are descending from higher elevation to lower elevation, and at the same time, due to the development of hydroelectricity project, due to development of what we can call as the construction of dams and all that, it is believed that it has affected the spawning or breeding of salmon fish that is found here, as well as local fish migration also is getting impacted. Other river is Mackenzie River. Mackenzie is important because it is the longest river in Canada, and it dissects the northwestern territory of Canada. Dissect means, as you can see from here, the Mackenzie River, basically it is this side you have the northwest territory. This side also you have the northwest territory. Somewhere to the central part of this territory, you have the flow of this river. Length again is 1,800 kilometers. Mouth basically, head and mouth is a term that we use with reference to river. Head refers to the origin point of the river, while mouth refers to the place where river drains out in the sea, forming delta or estuary. Now, Mackenzie Bay, that is part of Beaufort Sea, as you can see from the map here. This is the Beaufort Sea, and here the Mackenzie River is finally draining out near the place that is called as Bay of Mackenzie. The river was named after a geographer called as Sir Alexander Mackenzie. He was the first, while navigating through the entire North American continent, he discovered this historic river, and along this river path you'll find thick green and dozens of green forest and dozens of glacial freshwater lakes as such. Now, coming to the major river of not only US but entire North America, that is called as Mississippi River. Mississippi is also the second longest river, we can say, as far as the US is concerned. Its total length is about 3,765 kilometers. You can compare that somewhere to what you can call as, even it is longer than Indus River. Indus River, it is longer than Brahmaputra River. It is even longer than, obviously, Ganga River. So, much more longer than any river we have in India as such. Mouth is in Gulf of Mexico, just below the city of New Orleans is the city that you will find here, and it is a significant transportation artery of the entire coastal plain and the Great Plains of North America, because the river you can see from the map here, it's not that we are talking about a single river, that is Mississippi River. It is well connected through the entire region because it is joined by Ohio River. You can see from here you have the river, then you have the Missouri River that is coming from here, then you have the Red River, White River, Arkansas River. So overall the entire plain area, and further you have connectivity to the Great Lakes region, is possible by using the arterial routes of this particular river system as such. Overall, in the entire world also, it makes up the third largest river system after River Nile and Amazon. The total length is about 6,236 kilometers. You consider all the tributaries from which it receives the water as such. Then we have St. Lawrence, a very important river that basically originate from the Lake Ontario and then flows out in the St. Lawrence Bay or Gulf of St. Lawrence. Length is not very high. It is just 1,225 kilometers, but very, very important from the transportation perspective, because we have discussed all these 5 lakes which cover a significant part of the central North America. They are well connected through the canal networks, and then through the lake further you have connectivity across St. Lawrence River, which provides connectivity to the port that you have here. And that is the reason why it is much more easier and cheaper to transport even bulkier items, that has helped industries in earning a handsome profit as such. So it permits the passage of not only shallow water ships but even the deep water ships, because the draft level, that is the water level, always remains quite higher here because of the presence of Atlantic Ocean and the Great Lakes. Also, after Suez Canal, Panama Canal, it is believed that it is one of the most vital shipping routes on the planet because of the large scale connectivity as such. Then coming to the Missouri, we have discussed the longest river in the United States. Missouri, the length is about 4,023 kilometers. So you can imagine it is very, very long river, originating in what you can call as again Rocky Mountains that you have here in the western part. In Rocky Mountains, here you have a state of US called as Montana. So in the southern part of Montana, where you have the extension of Rockies, the river originates, and after originating from here, you can see passing through several states, originate in the state of Montana, then it passes or flows to the state of North Dakota, then it flows to the state of South Dakota, then it enters and flows along the border of 2 major states of US, that is Nebraska and Iowa. Then further it enters and flows along the border of Kansas, and itself Missouri is a state. And then in the state of Missouri, it is joined by Mississippi River, as you can see from here like this, and after that it further drains out in the Gulf of Mexico. So very, very important, very we can say from economic perspective also very important river system of North America. Then the next river we have is Rio Grande, also called as Rio Bravo del Norte. It is one of the longest river in North America because length again is 3,034 kilometers, somewhere similar to the length of Brahmaputra and Indus. Brahmaputra is about 3,180 kilometers, Indus is about 2,900 kilometers. So somewhere in between the length you have the Rio Grande River. Rio Grande River originates from what you call as the San Juan Mountains. San Juan Mountains that you have in the southern Colorado. Basically, it is extension of the same Rocky range itself. It forms the natural border between 2 major states of US, that is, between Texas and Mexico. Texas is part of US, and in the further south you have Mexico. So it forms, you can see from here itself, El Paso, very, very important region. You would have read about this, heard about it many times when you're talking about the illegal immigration from Mexico to US. Many of the illegal immigrants uses this El Paso, that means basically the pass, to enter illegally from Mexico to US as such. New Mexico is a state here, or Texas state you have here. So Texas, this side you can see this is the Mexico, and along the border of Mexico and Texas is flowing the river that is called as Rio Grande. Very, very important because both countries, the people living in this area uses the river water for the drinking purposes. And the problem however is that in recent times, due to the agricultural activity that we are seeing being carried out here, a lot of pesticides as well as rapid urban development has resulted into the drain water, that is sewage discharge, sewage drain we can say, into the water of this river, causing significant pollution and degradation in this river as such. So that's all about this particular video. I hope you got the idea about whatever we have to cover from the prelims perspective in the continent of North America. Again, to revise, we have covered the physical division of North America, the important mountains, important deserts, lakes of North America, and finally ending with the rivers of North America. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thank you very much.